Mashiach, okay? He said, throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High. So let's go back to Isaiah chapter 11 and verses 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an answering of the people. To each shall the Gentiles seek, the dispersed, and his rest shall be glorious. You see, the rest of the dispersed, because of who? Amashiach. We've been called back in, we've been drawn in, we've been grafted back in. Why? Because of the blood of Amashiach. When you go read when you go read the letter of Paul, like Roman, when you read be grafted, and you think he's talking about the heathen, he's talking about the Edomite, that he's talking about the Chinese. No, he's not talking about it. He's still talking about the Israelite. We became wild. Why? Because we were not keeping the commandment. Because we were not born in Judea. We were not born in Jerusalem. We were born outside of our nation. Understand that. So stop arguing. Stop fighting. Things like that. Don't try and bring people into the books. Okay? Understand that. Let's keep on rolling. He said, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time. The first time was through Moses. All right? That's why we got to keep the Passover. This time will be through our Mashiach. All right? Again the second time, okay, to recover the remnant of his people, the remnant, because 2/3 will destroy, will perish. Only 1/3 will make it. So those the 1/3 are the remnant. Keep in mind, the 1/3 are the remnant, right? The remnant, okay, of his people, which shall be left where? From Assyria, right? The whole Assyria and Syria, all those areas. And from Egypt is in Africa, okay? From Egypt, which is Africa, keep in mind. And from Patros, okay, another big region. And from Cush is Ethiopia today, is still part of Africa, eh? And from Elam today we say is India and part of, like, I'll say Pakistan, and the list goes on and on and on. And from China is Iraq, part of Iraq, all those areas, keep in mind. And from Hamath, and from the island of the sea, all the island of the sea, west coast of Africa, Madagascar, Mauritius, Venezuela, the US, and the list goes on and on and on. Keep that in mind, all right? So let's go back to this article quick, right? He say, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization say its food prices index, which tracks monthly changes in international prices for a basket of commodities, averaged 159.3 points last month, up to 12.6% from February. As it is, the February index was the highest level since its inception in 1990. They say since 1990 we didn't see anything like that. He said now you seeing it. He said everything is about to get so expensive. He said FAO, FAO, right, which is an institution of the United Nations that deal with what food crisis, things like that. They're the one that play with the narrative, the statistic, whatever they want you to believe in it. All right, so keep that in mind. FAO said the war in Ukraine was largely responsible for the 17.1% rise in the price of grain. Can you imagine that? Let's say just 17.1%, right? All of a sudden is going to affect Africa, right? Including wheat and other like oat, right? Barley and corn. Now, let me tell you, I was born and raised I live a little bit in West Africa before I came here, okay? We grow a lot of corn. And listen, the main foundation, the main food, the daily food that we eat mainly is based on the corn. And our corn does not come from the overseas. Why? Because there is some type of food that we make like fufu, we make like banku, we make like what we call a lapat, and the list goes on and on. Guess what? There is a type of corn that we got to use. We don't use any corn because you want your fufu to be well done. You want it to be kind of like elastic when you make it, when you mix it, you do it. It's like healthy, tasty, decent when you feed the children. Like corn meal, right? Or corn porridge. When you drink it, you give it to your son or your daughter. Original one, like from West Africa, your children will be strong. They'll be strong, they'll be healthy, right? So I see that here talking about Ukraine. How much corn do they produce? A country where is cold. It's really cold in Ukraine and Russia. How much corn can they produce to feed Africa? To feed the Jew that live in Africa? How much corn can they produce? That's what I'm trying to understand, man. Because you can only grow corn in a very tropical weather. It got to be super hot and rainy. All right. And in Ukraine, it's way too cold. Russia, way too cold. These are northern hemisphere, like super cold. And you have to tell me. Now, if they were to tell me about wheat, right, and barley, I understand. Those things that grow in a cold weather, right? And it also depends if it get too cold, they're gonna get destroyed too. but they'll survive in the cold weather. Understand? But for you to tell me about corn, oil, you can't even raise anything in the cold weather. You gotta go do it in the greenhouse, your greenhouse thing, like, and you making the world believe that, well, because of this crisis, and they only account for what, 30% or 20% of the global wheat and corn export. And all of a sudden, famine is going to hit Africa. What they're telling you is that in Africa, the people don't work, they don't do anything. They're just right there, they're just beggars. That's what they're saying. That's what the power is saying, man. They just say in Africa, these people don't do anything. It's like they don't have land in Africa. There's no land in Africa. Ain't nobody growing anything. Everything just comes from Russia. All the food just comes from Ukraine. Everything just comes from USA. And our people don't wake up because the puppet leader, they're wicked. And our people blind because they believe in the narrative, they believe in the lie. Instead of getting up and doing some work, keeping the commandment of the Most, they won't keep the commandment of the Most. And that's why this thing is coming upon you. You're becoming what? A prophet and a byword. That's what he said, Deuteronomy 28. If you don't know, you go read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Esau letting you know based on the prophecy, just like he's not using the prophecy. Deuteronomy 28, the curses, man. Right? He said, why? He said, together Russia and Ukraine account for around 30% and 20% of global wheat and corn export respectively. That's it. It's like maybe like 50%. And it's not even everything that, guess what? From those 30%, 20%, they'll use some for their own people, right? They keep some for their own people. All of a sudden, if they are not hit themselves, so if there is a crisis, how come Ukraine and Russia are not hit? If they're the one that produce those things, right? They have an account of 30% or 20%. How come they are not hit, right? They are not hit yet that much, but all of a sudden it's in Africa. So like, yeah, it's Africa that being hit. You see how they're playing the game? They're letting you know who is the attack. A war that has nothing to do with Africa. All of a sudden, meanwhile, you got the US. They're taking all this military thing. They're making all these guns, all these weapons, all these bombs. Just yesterday alone, right? You see the USA just deployed some of the artillery, some of the machine, some of the weaponry, thing that they just brought them through Denmark. They brought all this weapon. So if you to tell me the United Nations is telling us that there will be a food shortage, a crisis in Africa, how come you don't stop bringing weapons to Ukraine? You don't stop pouring gasoline into the fire, and you look for like peace. You look for your peace, and you're trying to make sure there is no famine in Africa, as you say. But what they're doing, taking the taxes from the poor people here in America, the poor Latino, the so-called blacks, African American, those that work hard day and night and break the bank, they take the taxes to go buy this gun, this deadly machine, all these things, and bring it to Ukraine so they can continue to fight and kill one another. And that's what they want you to believe. That's what they want you to believe. They're thinking that they're helping the Ukrainian. How can you help me giving me gun and weapon to kill my brother and my sister? How can you help me? Is that how you help somebody? How can you help me? Meanwhile, you supply me with weapon, gun. Meanwhile, you got other people you saying that there'll be famine. That's from the United Nations. The United Nations saying there will be famine. If there will be famine, you should stop falling or bringing weapon, things like that onto people. You accuse Saddam Hussein of having weapon of massive destruction. All of a sudden, you're the one providing weapon to these people to kill each other. And all of a sudden, you run around, you say there will be famine in Africa. You see how they play the game? That's why we tell you, wake up, repent, and keep the commandment. That's why we're telling you, ye so-called blacks, Latino, and Native, all this happening is because of you. This is happening because they're targeting you. You're the main target. Repent and keep the commandment of the Most High. Make sure you don't take the MOTB, and make sure you don't get involved with the war. The NWO and the MOTB. We speak in the spirit, right? The book of Revelation, Apocalypse is clear on it. All right, it tell you whether it be poor, great, slave, or bond, whatever. If you don't take it, you won't be able to buy or sell or eat it. Keep in mind, Revelation chapter 13 and Revelation chapter 14 and Revelation chapter 16 and 19. Okay, keep in mind, if you take the MOTB or you deal with the mark of the beast, or you worship the image, or you worship the system or the beast, which beast? Esau-Edom is the fourth beast. Don't get it twisted. Don't think he's talking about some like dragon. No, he's talking about the fourth beast that was shown to Daniel and later revealed unto who? It was fully revealed unto who? Unto Esdras. He's talking about the eagle, the fourth nation, right? The first was who? The Babylonian. After the Babylonian, you have who? The Mede Persia, the second beast. The third beast are the Greeks. And the fourth beast are the Edomite, the Esau-Edom, Idumea, Teman, Bozrah, the Chaldean. Keep in mind, all right? All right? Those ones that you call today who? The Caucasian, the so-called white people. Keep in mind, all right? They're the fourth beast, so that thing's going to come through them. So use wisdom and stay in the spirit. Don't go off. Use wisdom and stay in the spirit. The target is all about you. Keep God's commandment. Repent and keep God's commandment. Things going to get worse. Things going to get worse. Repent and keep the commandment. Be prepared spiritually. Be prepared spiritually. Not only to our brother that live in West Africa, we're talking to all our people. Don't get it twisted because they're talking about Africa here, then Africa will be the only one. No, they're targeting Israel throughout the four corners of this earth. Whatsoever you live, because when everything starts falling, they're going to come after you. So you got to be in the spirit. Make sure you keep in the commandment. Let's go right here. This is the book of Psalms. So that's what I want to touch on. I don't want to go too much on the article, right? You can go ahead and you read it on your own, right? You can read it on your own, right? Read it on your own. I'm not going to read everything. I just need a little bit, okay? I just need a little bit, right? Let's go. This is the book of Psalm chapter 83 and verses 1. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemy make it to mock, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. So they hate the Most High. Before they hate me, they hate the Israelite, and they hate the 12 tribes of Israel. Guess what? They hate the Most High first. Because, like I say, we didn't make our own self. Who made us? The Most High. So for you to hate me, or to hate my brother, or to hate my people, that means you hate my Creator. You hate the Most High. It's plain and simple. That means you hate Amashiach. That's what Mashiach said. He said, if the world hate you, know for sure they hate me first before they hate you. You gotta understand that. All right. So for them to be targeting Africa about the famine for a war that is in Europe, because if they were saying that the war be affecting Ukraine, it's only affect Ukraine, Russia, and Europe, I understand. But don't tell me because they export. How much do they export? How much? Do they feed the whole people in Africa? No. The people grow their own thing. They might not maybe grow too much, but they grow their own thing. All right. He said, for Lord, thine enemy make it to mock, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against that people, against us. Right? Jeremiah 30:6. Jacob trouble. Jacob trouble. Esau is the end of the world. 2 Ezra 6, right? In verses 9. All right? 2 Ezra 6 and 9. Right? Keep in mind, for Esau is the end of the world, and they know. The fourth beast. The fourth beast, that's why he's pressing, he's doing everything he can. He's on the race. He's racing very fast. He wanna make it, he wanna make sure he get as much as he can of our people into his agenda. So like that, they can all perish together. Don't be partaker of that. Stay in the spirit and keep the commandment, brother and sister. Repent and keep the commandment. Repent and keep the commandment. The main message, repent and seek the Most High. You are an Israelite. You are not African American. You are not black. You are not Latino. You are not Mexican. You are an Israelite. One of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right? Let's read it. He said, and consult against the hidden one. They have said, what do they say? Let's see what they say. They have said, right? Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, right? That's the whole idea. That's the whole game. Let us cut them off from being a nation. How they're going to do it? They'll use famine. They'll use the mainstream media, propaganda. They'll use the lie. They're going to use Christianity. They're going to use Islam. All those. How they're going to cut us off from being a nation? They use religion. They're going to use mainstream media. They're going to use Hollywood. They're going to use movie. They're going to use the music. They're going to use the institution. They're going to use the education system. They're going to use all type of things, right? So keep in mind, that all these are set up to bring forth war. The construction of the Tower of Babel that Nimrod left off. Who left off the New World Order for them? Nimrod. That Cushite. He left them up the New World Order, the NWO, and what? The MOTB, the mark of the beast. He left them those things. Those heritage came from Nimrod. He gave it, he traded it into who? Esau, the fourth beast. Esau-Edom. In Esau, he got all the weakness from all this kingdom. He put it together and brought it to Babylon the Great. Because guess what? The New World Order, right, is being ruled and controlled and directed by who? America, Babylon the Great. It's being done and controlled by who? America, the United States of America. Now, the Russians, they're getting tired of the New World Order, right? And some of these Asians, they're getting tired of the New World Order. The Iranian, they're getting tired of the New World Order, right? You got the North Korean, they're getting tired of the New World Order. So you got to understand, people getting frustrated, they're getting tired over America oppressing and dictating, doing his hegemony till people getting tired. People getting tired, and they're drawing nigh to the time. That's why you got to repent and seek the Most High. Stay in the spirit. Keep the commandment. Keep the commandment. Keep the commandment. All right? Salakia. Keep the commandment. as we're saying, right? You gotta make sure you stay in the spirit and you keep in the commandment of the Most High Yahweh while you shine, man. You gotta make sure you keep in the commandment. Stop playing game. Stop being wicked. Repent. Seek the Most High before it's too late, man. Because things going to get really worse. Be ready. That's why you gotta be ready in the spirit. You got to be ready in the spirit. You got to be ready at all time to go and to leave this place. You got to be ready to leave whatsoever place you are. Don't be confident in your where I'm fear. Yeah, I want to do this. No. Whatever we're doing with pilgrims on the earth, mainly the brother and the sister that live here in the Western world, we got to be ready at all time to leave. If the Most High move the spirit upon the brother to bounce, to take off, you better do it. Don't wait for me. Don't wait for your father. Don't wait for your mother. Don't wait for your daughter. Don't wait for your friend. No. Remember when the Most High told Abraham to bounce, to leave his family? Abraham, he didn't worry about his brother, his uncle, his auntie. He just bounced. So keep in mind, because a lot of our people, they're rebellious, especially here in Babylon the Great. Especially here in Babylon the Great, a lot of you are rebellious. You don't want to leave. You just be comfy. You got to be ready. If the Most High